to the haunting place. Tonight we gaze into the ghostly flame to experience a tale of life and love. And the ghosts that come a-visiting us tonight are spectres of the lost and the living. For it is not only the supernatural that haunts us. The pain of the living can also leave an indelible mark upon our hearts and souls. On a beach not too far from here, a man in a dirty, black and tattered trench coat staggers up and down the sands, making strange, jerky movements. He stumbles and waves his arms as if mad with some peculiar delirium. Known locally as the man who dances, this rather odd creature entices derision from his passing audience. Some laugh and heckle, which provokes more bouts of raucous laughter. They post live streams to YouTube. He has appeared on a fail video or two, and the TikTok memes are epic. Others glance in pity, trying not to stare, but curious as to what possesses him. And then there are the people who glance in fear at this thing, this pariah. They hold their children tighter and whisper to them about the dangerous monster they must never speak to or even approach. And if they are naughty, he will seek them out in the night and steal them away. Be good, they warn incessantly. Be good, or the man who dances will get you. We have all known those people who seem, for one reason or another, different, strange to us in disturbing ways. You may feel sorry for them, or try to explain away their peculiarities as mere quirks or eccentricities. And then there are those who cause fear to creep into our minds and hearts. The stranger in the woods, or the shadowy figure down the dark alley at night. The killer clown who stalks lonely places, or predator who watches unseen. The others of the world who mean harm to you and yours. Those who hide in plain sight and whose oddities may seem trivial, but threaten to steal away everything you hold dear. But who is the man who dances? And what is his story? Oliver loved to dance, and the dance halls of the late 1950s sparkled with his brightest moments of life. Each weekend he would put down his books and go out on the town, leaving his study to percolate over the stale mugs of chicory coffee in his bedsit. One day he would be a doctor, but for now, on this night, he was a dancer, and it was on this night he met Grace. It took only a moment, a rare and fleeting moment, for their eyes to find each other's gaze, but from that moment they found their home, their place of safe harbourage, and never again would they feel adrift. They danced every night from that moment on, holding tightly to each other as the world around them did what it does. They no longer paid heed to its foibles and fancies, for they had the sound of music to keep them on their toes. When Oliver qualified, it was the most chest-wringing moment of pride Grace had ever experienced. She could never have presumed such emotion existed within her. As it poured from her body, she thought she might die from lack of air, and had to fight for breath against the stinging of her joyful tears and the ache of her adoring heart. It was on that day Oliver proposed to his wife-to-be. The day before, he'd visited a department store in town with a nauseous trepidation and fumbled like a schoolboy over the engagement rings. He had almost turned and walked away when a kindly shop assistant noticed his pallor and came to his aid. She had smiled as she placed the small ring box into an ever-so-fancy bag, and with a twinkle in her eye she remarked in a distinctive Irish brogue that Grace is one very lucky lady, and that he was a lucky man for them to have found each other. Grace had wept profusely when the love of her life got down on a single knee. Now we might say she ugly cried, but to Oliver she'd never looked more beautiful. With a career in medicine, Oliver was not one for a quiet practice in some rural town, despite Grace's secret wishes for a cottage by the sea. No, Oliver wanted adventure and to serve his fellow human beings. So the couple travelled around the globe. They voyaged on ships, trains and planes, and once by camel caravan over the majestic rolling desert of Mauritania. Their journeys were not out of wanderlust, but more a deep-rooted need for doing good. In each place of their lifelong exploration, Oliver treated the sick, the suffering and the wounded, venturing to places that would arouse trepidation in even the most courageous hearts. He saved the lives of babies and children, of the elderly, and even a centenarian by the side of the road just outside of Delhi. With Grace by his side, the intrepid doctor would step bravely into disease and famine and war, never once thinking of himself and his own safety. However, no matter the place or the lack of respite, Oliver always made sure he had time to take Grace in his arms and dance at least once every day. And they danced as the sun set and the moon rose and the stars gazed down upon them. Under the northern lights and the southern cross, they danced in tropical heat and hurricane winds on beaches and rooftops, and they never stopped dancing. Until that one day. It was a beautiful summer's morning that Oliver and Grace, on a rare visit back to Britain, were walking in London's Hyde Park. It was a day like any other, except for Grace, who was thrilled to have her husband back completely for a brief interlude. No travelling, no discomfort, no sights that scarred for years after they'd been witnessed. They shared an ice cream on a park bench and danced beside the Serpentine. It was an all too temporary fragment of time, but it was crystallised into a perfect moment when Oliver turned to her and with a knowing smile explained that there would be no more journeys into torment, for he had found the most wonderful cottage by the shore in a place far away. The troubles had hit Northern Ireland hard, and it was not long before the bloodshed spilled over into the mainland. The bomb that ripped through the tranquillity of that seemingly innocuous yet privately momentous July day, left tatters in the lives of so many. Oliver found himself laying on the cool grass, a jarring sound causing the world to spin around him. Hearing the sounds of people moaning and screaming through his own internal cacophony propelled him to pull himself from the ground, knowing he must help them around him. "Grace, help me up!" He heard his own voice cracking from the smoke and dust in his throat. "Help me, Grace. I must get to those people." But for the first time, in the longest time, Grace's hand did not come to meet his. No familiar fingers or reassuring palm arrived to give context, bearings, or hope. Instead, he had to fight hard for breath against the stinging of his pain-soaked tears and the ache of his bereft heart. He had to fight for meaning in the world that suddenly lost all meaning. In the brightness of unforgiving sunshine, another woman, somehow familiar, knelt by him and told him to lay down, to rest. He was hurt, but he was a very lucky man.
You're a very lucky man.
And it was with those few short words he recognised the shop assistant from the store where he'd bought Grace's rings so many years ago. She was there at the beginning of his marriage, and now again at the end. He lay his head back on the grass and pleaded for his wife. But Grace could wait no longer, and had already departed on that long voyage towards the shore and her yearned-for cottage by the sea. It was shortly after that day the tall, dark monolith of a man, dressed in black and ashen grey, took up residence in that cottage by the sea. Those who saw him would comment on his strange gait, his cadaverous countenance, and how his limbs would shake as if in the grip of some savage paroxysm. Many stop and stare and giggle to themselves at this peculiar wraith as he takes to dancing at the water's edge. The long-retired doctor who lost his will to live and his marbles many years ago. Yet in the wake of this cruel schadenfreude, Oliver still makes time to dance with his beloved, to the strangely haunting melody of their laughter and derision. He takes Grace in his arms, not as some phantom or vapour, but as real to him as she has always been. And as the sun sets and the moon rises and the stars gaze down, they dance. And once again, the world is left to its foibles and fancies.